Hi, and welcome to Game Changer. My name is Daniel Connor, and I have a guest with me today. It's Daniel McCraine. And so, just real quick about Game Changer, we are here to inspire people with content about positive neuroscience, business to business services, and more. And um, with inspiration, it just is a matter of finding the right topic for you. So tune in for other topics. We're live every Wednesday at 3:30 p.m. and we have guests on the second and fourth week of the month. So this week I'm joined again by Daniel McCraine. Daniel is a business coach, a consultant, a mentor, and an investor. He's also a musician and a teacher. He was a band teacher in his former life. And his goal is to create a legacy and exit strategies for businesses. And that's what he's going to be with us about. So, Daniel, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, my pleasure, Daniel. Thanks for the platform, the opportunity to speak with your audience today. And this does feel a little reflexive, doesn't it? Like you're talking to yourself. Hi,
Yeah, yeah,
Daniel. Yeah.
yeah. I was a band nerd in school, so I can appreciate multiple things about your introduction. Well, tell me about your business now.
So my coaching and consulting practice is becoming a little bit of an agency approach to coaching and consulting for small businesses. I have a focus on the business growth and the longevity, a strong foundation, and scalability for business. A lot of business coaches can help with that too. I'm not going to pretend that mine is the only approach to growing your business. I do keep in mind that long-term approach to owning a business and running a business. And I am very much interested in the longevity of a business, being able to scale something large enough that it becomes transferable, whether that's to the next generation or whether that's to a new owner, maybe even to your employees. So when I am working with a business owner, I'm really working on making sure they have a really strong foundation to the business, making sure processes and procedures are in place for that scalability, making sure we have all systems in place around their marketing, their customer fulfillment, and even including collecting your fees and your revenue from your clients. Daniel, would you believe it or not? Some business owners don't do that.
Wow.
They have
I
no
would believe
system
it
around
because
that.
it's not easy. It's not easy to start up a business. I know firsthand how difficult it is. So,
Right. Yeah.
what area of business do you specialize in? Are there specific clients that you kind of find are gravitating towards you more often? Who in our audience should pay attention, perk
Sure.
up their
Sure.
ears?
I find that service-based businesses of a variety of types are the type of business owners that I tend to attract, and it crosses all kinds of industries, even though it's service-based. I work with some clients that are business to business. I work with some clients that are business to consumer, but it's all service-based. And I will be forthright with people who come to talk to me and say, can you help me grow my business? I am not an expert in running restaurants or managing a retail shop or even manufacturing. That is not my area of expertise. Now, I will not turn a business owner away in those industries if they want to have a conversation about exit planning and how they can transition that business. Those strategies that I use are going to be universally applied to any kind of industry. But when it comes to growing the business, trying to turn it into something more than it currently is, I will be forthright with that business owner and say, look, there are experts out there who are much better working in your industry than I am. I even have some of them in my network. I'd be happy to make a referral. But I think we're all going to have a better experience if you work with someone who is more of an expert in those
Yeah,
areas.
they'll be able to catch, common mistakes for each industry. And for sure, there's definitely ones in the service industries, right? Coaching is a good example of that, right?
Right.
Um, so, well, let's start with a solid definition because we are here to talk about that exit strategy, that kind of universal thing.
Mhm.
Death is inevitable. disability is a potential, health risks, but also eventually we want to retire. So let's define what an exit strategy looks for. What are you talking about when you say that?
So when I talk about exit strategy, I firmly believe, and I think a lot of other people will agree as well. I kind of take a broad approach to it. So exit is leaving the business by a variety of different methods. So you mentioned a couple of them there. So let's talk about the best case scenario. First of all, let's say the business becomes wildly successful and you're ready to walk away from it, hopefully pocketing some cash in the process. So that could be either in the near term. So someone wants to purchase your business because it's doing so well. So you walk away with cash in your pocket that way. It could also mean down the road, you hang on to it for several years and the business takes care of you and your family for a good long time. And then you're ready to step away from a very successful business. So that would be one way that you're going to leave the business. Someone buys you out or you transfer that business to the next generation. So that would be the best case scenario. There are other ways or reasons or events that happen to us sometimes that may not be quite so positive, but the business owner needs to consider a strategy for what's going to happen if these events occur. And here I'm talking about if the business fails, what are you going to do? No one wants to consider what's going to happen, especially not in a startup stage, of what will happen if your business does not take off. But even midway through your business, it may have been around for a couple of decades. It may have been around for just a handful of years, and suddenly something doesn't go right and the business fails. How are you going to walk away from that business? How are you going to unravel your life from the business? How are you going to shut down the finances? How will you pay off any creditors, vendors, your staff? It's good to have that strategy in place before something happens. I think everybody has heard a story in their town, wherever you are, wherever you're listening to this or watching this right now. Everyone has heard that story of the employees who go to work one morning and the doors are locked, lights are shut, and the business owners are nowhere to be found. Can't be contacted by phone, by email, drive by their house and they are gone. So there's got to be a better plan than that,
Yeah.
than just trying to skip town and disappear. So have that plan in place. Now, the other two, Daniel, are not as much fun to talk about. What happens if the business owner passes away prematurely? Suddenly come down with a disease or an accident, car accident, or whatever the case may be. What's going to happen to your business? What will happen to any employees that you have and to their families? Because suddenly the job is gone if you're not there to run the business. What's going to happen to your family? So there have to be plans there to deal with that exit from your business.
Yeah.
But that's not even the worst part, Daniel. Because dying prematurely is not as likely to happen as becoming totally disabled through some form of accident. Let's say that you're taking the family out because your business is successful. You've bought that nice boat. You're going to go water skiing with the family, and you take a bad tumble and you dive headfirst into that water at 40 miles an hour, or water skiing, however fast the boat will go. And suddenly you're paralyzed from the neck down and you can no longer run your business. That is more likely. Disability is much more likely to occur than premature death. And what's going to happen to your business? I'll tell you right now, there are some fantastic insurance products out there to handle that disability exit or that life expectancy exit from your business. And I'm not going to tell you which insurance agent to talk to. I have several in my network, but hopefully everyone knows one themselves, at least one. But there are insurance products out there to handle those eventualities that could occur in your business. And if you've got a business partner that's involved, you pass away or you become disabled, you have to have those products in place. Not only those insurance products, but also those legal documents that say this is what will happen
Yeah. Yeah,
next
and
in the business.
it can get really complicated, right? Like
It
I'm pretty
can.
sure you have some horror stories about that. Do you have
Right.
one you want to share with us?
So I do have an example of a transfer, a business transfer gone wrong, where the business owner passed away unexpectedly. Yes. So I was told this story. This was not a direct experience myself, but I was told this story by a family member who was involved. So scenario was, I'm not going to share the industry because I'm trying to recall now. I don't think no one, I don't think I was even told what the industry is, nor was I told where in the U.S. this occurred. So if this sounds familiar to you, it probably just sounds familiar because it's unfortunately too common. This happens way too often. But the situation was, Grandpa owned a business, and the next generation, so the son was not interested in running the business, but the grandsons had an interest in the business. And so Grandpa had over time brought the grandsons in. Now they were adults, they were starting to take over their positions within the company. It was still premature to consider putting them into key positions or to begin the transition, moving the company into their name. So they weren't quite ready for that yet. So that's the scenario. So situation occurred. Grandpa was beginning to step away and wanted a president to run the company. So kind of to help with that bridge, that transition from grandpa to the grandsons. So this was the bridge strategy. So grandpa brought in a nephew to come in and be the president of the company. And the understanding was that down the road, he may be named a co-owner and given some equity in the company. But at least in the meantime, to run the company for about a year, get things on stable footing until that transition could take place. So the nephew comes in, takes over the presidency in the company, and realizes that one of the grandsons was completely incompetent and actually had to be ousted by the board. Um, but something else occurred that was part of this as well, and I may be getting the order of events out of order here, Daniel. But the unfortunate thing happened that Grandpa passed away 3 months into the nephew's new presidency of this
Oh,
company,
so those
and
plans weren't even really finalized.
none of these documents were in place. These were all verbal agreements, but nothing was in writing other than nephew is now the president. That was it. So this grandson had to be ousted by the board because he was so poor at performing his job, turned around and sued everybody because he was supposed to be a 50% owner of the company when grandpa died. Sued every board member, sued the president, sued anybody who had any connection to this company. And because of all the legal deadlock that he created and the legal fees, ended up killing the company. That company no longer exists because
Just
the
takes
grand
one
took
lawsuit.
everybody to court. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So we use that phrase of "don't kill the goose that lays the golden egg." In this case, that's exactly what happened. It ended up killing the goose.
A lot of the people that I have on my show are coaches, and it just kind of it seems like it would almost be more tragic if you're a coach and you've gone to the effort of starting your own business not to have some form of plan for the eventuality or the possibility of something happening. But I don't know
Mhm,
that they teach
mhm.
us that in coach school. I don't remember it being taught in my coach school.
Probably not. I know that they do try to give a lot of marketing and business advice, but exit planning is something that, for some reason, it seems to be taboo in our
Yeah.
society. We don't talk about it much, but we need to start talking about it. I got to get on my soapbox here for a moment, Daniel. We've got 33 million small businesses in the United States that the SBA knows about. Others go unrecognized because they don't get filed with local governments. Anywhere between a third to two-thirds of those businesses are owned by baby boomers. And we know baby boomers are retiring at a rate of about 10,000 a day.
It's a
So
lot.
what's going to happen to their businesses? We need to start having these conversations about exit planning.
Yeah. Yeah, and we also need to set a precedent for it going on in the future that,
Mm-hmm.
now is the time to set a good example and have an exit plan, which leads me to my next question, which is when is the best time to start your exit plan? What stage in the life cycle of a business?
So Robert Kiyosaki is a financial author, and many watching this show right now may be familiar with his name. He has a quote, and I'm going to bungle it here a little bit right now. His quote is, "Plan your exit before you buy." And he gives that advice for any kind of an investment that you go into. And he's thinking more along the lines of stock or real estate or investment, but think about your business as an investment. So, taking his advice, we should have a plan in place for exiting our business the moment that we start putting our business plan even on the back of a napkin. Maybe it's not the full on business plan, but even at that stage, that's when you should start planning how you're going to exit your business. And especially for a startup, if you're in that stage, you need to think about what's going to happen if this fails, if it doesn't work out the way that I want it to. I know you don't want to, especially when you're starting up, you're really excited. You don't want to think about that. But that's the time to start thinking about it. Or what happens if I die while this is getting up and running or become disabled? So have those exit plans in place already. If you're past that startup stage and you don't have an exit plan set up, then now is the time to do it, to start making those plans.
So it's basically it's already too late if you have a business, but you can still do something about it and correct that,
Absolutely. And of course, when you come up with your exit plan, it's never going to stay the same. A
right?
year
It's
later,
something,
2
it
years
needs to
later,
evolve with the business.
exactly. Things
Yeah.
change. The business grows, the business changes, new people come in, they leave. So your exit strategy needs to be a living document just as much as any of your other governing documents inside your business.
So one of the things you pointed out is that there are multiple ways to exit the business, multiple
Mhm.
different occurrences that can happen, whether it's retiring or selling or deceit, passing it on as an inheritance, or disability. What are some of the different strategies that businesses can consider for those areas? I guess what are the specifics here? What are the different plans? Not,
uh,
and I don't want you to give away secret sauce or anything like that, but
no, no, not at all. Not like any of this is secret at all. But certainly, anyone who is considering their exit plan and what some of these strategies might be, I'll be very upfront with you. You will need to consult with experts to get some of these things done. There are legal aspects that need to be addressed. There are financial aspects. So your accountant and bookkeeper need to become involved in the process. Working with a competent business broker can be a really good strategy. And above all, what I find the most is you need to have some kind of coach or a consultant who has been through this process and knows what they're doing to be that quarterback for you. So they can quarterback your exit team. So everyone who's involved can all be on the same field running the same plays. There we go. We'll stick with a sports analogy there for a moment. So that coach or that consultant is usually the person I find is left out of the picture. And without that person calling the shots and running the plays, the lawyer's got their ideas, the accountant's got their ideas, business broker wants to do this,
you
and
won't
and
have a
everybody's just all over the place. Right.
cohesive in
Right.
strategy. That makes
hmm
sense.
As you're getting started with it, let me kind of address a part of your question there, Daniel. As you, the business owner who's watching this right now, you're thinking about how am I going to start working on my exit strategy with the idea of maybe I'm going to hand it off to the kids, or I'm going to sell it, or I'm going to sell it to the kids. You can do that too. There's so many things that you can do here. One of the first things you need to ask yourself is, when I leave this business, what do I want next?
Right. Just
So
like
start
any
thinking
kind
about,
of goal setting or planning, you kind of
right,
have to have the destination in mind before you take a trip.
right. Do I need that cash? Do I need a lifestyle? What do I want to walk away with when
Yeah.
I leave this business? And that's the first question to begin with.
That's a great place to start. And I think you mentioned that, for disability, one of the things that we can do is make sure that we have good insurance, business insurance to cover that. Um,
Mhm.
what are some of the other kind of maybe unthought of areas to look?
Wills and trusts. Talk to any estate planning lawyer. The number of people who do not have a will is just frightening when you think about it. And that means the state is going to step in and take over. And if you've got a business and you have no will, or the business is not set up as an LLC or a C corporation that can run itself when you're not there, you don't want the state stepping in and shutting down your business while your estate gets settled. So having that will in place, I highly recommend that everybody add some structure to your business. I'll be honest, my preference is some kind of a corporation where you can have officers and a board of directors who can take over. An LLC is a little harder to do that with, but if something happens to you, you want some people to be able to step in and continue to run the business. And a C corporation, honestly, is a great structure to use for that.
Actually, think we have a guest next month here to talk about B corporations as well. So
Ah,
that's
okay.
that's
All right.
another similar one, but in the nonprofit area,
Yeah, yeah. A
kind of.
little bit different focus. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
more of the mission driven
Hey, I'm not
kind
an
of
expert.
business.
She
But
is.
yeah, yep,
You guys are.
yep.
Um, well, if someone was listening to this and they wanted to kind of take the next steps, what does that look like for them?
The next steps would be either to begin consulting with your lawyer, your accountant about what what will happen next. What will happen to the business if you're no longer there in the business? So those would be some good first steps that someone could take. If someone wanted to reach out to me directly, I'd be happy to have a conversation with you. I do try to act as that quarterback sometimes. I try to point out where maybe your lawyer might be giving you perfect legal advice, but it may not be good accounting advice because that's not their area of expertise. And the same with your accountant. They might be giving you good accounting advice, but it may not be good legal advice. And I at least know enough to be able to bridge the two and say, okay, here's some things I see that could cause some problems for you. So I'd be happy to have that conversation.
Well, are there any other final words that you have for our audience today?
Real quick, I'll just throw out if anyone is beginning this conversation, I do have a successful succession starter kit that I'd be happy to send to anyone. It's a PDF ebook and it's got several forms that I use that I've developed with a couple of my business partners that help us kick off an exit planning conversation. It's a good information gathering kind of book, and it steers you to have some of the conversations that need to be had. It's along the lines of those books that someone might get from their estate planning lawyer to keep track of their bank accounts and
Yeah.
yeah, next of kin and those kinds of things. So it takes that kind of approach, but for your business.
Okay. Um, well, thank you. It has been a true joy to have you here. If they do want to get in touch with you for that, I have a link for your website in the description for this video. That's McCraine.com. Is that the
Mhm.
best place for them to contact you for the resource that you mentioned?
I'm going to say that's a great place to get my contact information. And at this point, it's best if you reach out to me directly and request a copy.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. You've been a terrific guest. Folks, if you've watched the video and you really like the content that we're bringing, please don't forget to log in, subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment about what inspired you the most today. It really helps us out with growing this channel, and it has been growing since we moved to YouTube in July. And next week, just as a quick teaser, we're going to be talking about That's Nice, Do It Anyway, which is a philosophy for getting yourself moving when you have emotions that are coming up, preventing you from moving forward, how you can take that action anyway. So we will see you then. And until then, take care. Bye.